Hello everyone, I'm here to talk about assessing oral language for listening. Okay, we will talk about these three things. First is the scope of assessment. Second is speaking and listening tasks through observation. And then third is listening only tasks. Well, for the scope, what area that you need to assess will depend on what scope you have in the curriculum. It cannot be just coming out of the blue. So you have to see your teaching objectives in the curriculum. You will see what kind of functions you have there, or what kind of language functions you have there, and what is the topic that you have there to be assessed. And then I will show you maybe the example of teaching objectives in the curriculum. We have several, but I only take some of them. Like for example, here in the first objective, we have ability to listen for explicit and implicit meaning. Here, students are able to listen to main ideas and for specific information, and also to understand the connection between ideas by recognizing linking words and phrases. It means that, yeah, it can be seen clearly that it is listening only. Okay, so you can give question like from this objective, what is the main idea of the conversation maybe. And then next, for the second objective, we have ability to take responsibility for their own learning. This is the ability to seek out opportunities to speak to others. So speak to others, you will think that this is speaking skills, right? But then you have and listen to others talk in the target language. Here, listening and speaking is collaborated. It cannot be separated. So that's why I said here that speaking and listening in the assessment sometimes cannot be separated, as well as in the curriculum, in the teaching objectives in curriculum. So let's go to the next one. We have observation. Well, for observation here, we have for observation, it is a central tool for assessment of oral language, because you cannot just have the formal assessment for oral language. Sometimes by using observation, it's more than enough. And maybe when you want to have a written text-based test, you have to be careful, because not every children have the literacy skills for their level. So if you think that your students do not have the literacy skills secure enough, then you should avoid written response. And then you can how can you get the response, and how can you get the result of your assessment for if you don't have the written one? You can have it from the children's response. It is informally assessed, so not always formal, but it can be informally assessed, like doing observation in the class. This is one example for the observation. We have big book activity. This big book activity have several steps, several activities here. Like for example, number 1, teacher calls children to mat. Here, children listen to instructions and come to sit on the mat. So children needs listening skills. And then second, group reading of big book. Teacher reads to children, pointing out words as she reads. Children also needs listening skills. And then third, group questions on the book. What happened to one of the characters? And then it means that in this third activity, that there is an answering question on the text. So after listening, they have to speak. And then number 4, we have children draw pictures depicting the story and write under pictures. Teacher discuss with children what they are drawing and helps with writing. In here, they need ability to describe and explain what they are doing. They need speaking as well as the listening. And then the 5th one, we have second group reading of book. More teacher questions on the book, and then teacher asks children to choose a character and describe. So here, it needs a skill for answering questions on the text and also listening to instructions, to teacher's instruction. And then 6, we have children draw and describe their character at their desk. Here, teacher can go around and then ask questions. Who is your character? Can you read what you have written? Here, the students will answer questions about their characters. So it needs speaking skill. And then, as I mentioned about assessment of oral language, it's not always in a formal way. It can be informal, like I wrote it here. It is moment to moment in all teaching activities. So oral language assessment is not only one time and formal written one, but it can be moment to moment in all teaching activities. It can be informally assessed, and you can have it in several forms. Like for example, here we have classroom instruction, we have group or individual readings of stories, we can also have discussions or class survey or literature based tasks or games. And for the types of tasks that need speaking and listening skill is this one, question and answer task, giving question and then answering, or oral interviews. You interview children and their feedback will be speaking, and while you interview them, they will listen to you. So this is the combination between speaking and listening. Mini dialogue and role plays as well. Oral information gap tasks, giving and receiving instruction. Like for example, you can make games with this one, and to analyze this one, you can record it, you can tape that and then analyze it later, or you observe them and then take a note on that. Or you can have partner and group discussions based on the topics or language functions. Oh, by the way, for oral information gap tasks, I have the example here. There are several, but maybe I can take one of them. Like for example, you can have this one, spotting differences. Give pairs of children pictures that have slightly different details. The children describe their pictures to each other and identify the differences. So you put class into pairs, and then student A, student B, and then give student A the full details of a picture, while for student B you give the incomplete one. You ask student A to describe their pictures to student B, so that student B will see what is empty in their pictures, and they can identify the differences, they can complete it. That's how it works. And then for listening only tasks, there are several things that we need to know. First is the listening ability. The listening ability of students sometimes is not assessed explicitly. Sometimes it is ignored because it cannot be seen clearly. But actually, you need to assess it explicitly because we need to know the listening skill of students. Not only the speaking, the reading and writing, but also the listening skill. And then for the ability of students in the listening skill, it depends on their spoken text encounter. The more they encounter spoken text, the more they are good in speaking, then they will be good in listening as well. And for this one, because it's implicitly seen, it can be say like it is invisible. So it is indirectly assessed. Usually, you can just have like that one, the observation. You can have the observation to assess them for listening only tasks. And maybe if you need evidence for children's understanding because it's invisible, you need the evidence for that. So you need products for that. What kind of products that you can have from children? Well, from the above activities here, you can have, for example, this one, spotting differences. You can have the same pictures after students be listened to students a definition description, and if they can complete it all correctly, then they can have 100% match picture with student A. If not, then it will be 80% or 70%. That will be the product for you, the pictures from them. And then for doing that one, of course, teachers need support to do that. Students can have the assessment using visual aids, pictures, simple charts, or maybe puppets to ease them to take it for assessment. And then writing a response. If you want them to write their response, you need to know whether they have the literacy skills or not. If they don't have it yet, then no need. You should avoid it. And then for the response itself, if they understand you but they cannot say it in the target language, then they can say it in the first language as long as they understand you. And then they can give response not only through words, but they can use their actions. They can notes if they understand, or they can shake their head, pointing to something, pointing to someone or something, moving around to show that they understand what you say to them. And then for the types of the tasks, we have three kinds for this one. First is requiring action response. Second, requiring short language response. And then third is requiring longer responses. For action response requirement, we have Simon Says. We all know what Simon Says. The teacher said, Simon says, stand up. So everybody will stand up. This is usually done in group, but for avoiding copying their friends, you can have the individual assessment for them, like Bobby, Simon says you have to stand up. Then you see if Bobby understand that one or not by checking Bobby's answer. And then TPR, it stands for total physical response. For this one, I have the example of some activities of TPR. If you want to assess with the topic of body, then you can use this example for TPR. Touch your partner's back. If they touch their partner's back, then they know, oh, this is back. Put your hand on your head. If they do it correctly, then they know this is hand, this is head. And many others. And then for the next one, we have requiring short language response. Like for example, true or false task. You can give students colored piece of paper. If it is false, then it is red colored. It is true, it is white colored. And you give them questions. If they say it is true, then they can wave the white color. If it is false, then they can wave the red color. Or you can ask them to circle the picture, to circle the true or false picture. And then oral close, it's writing in the missing words or nothing specific information. After listening to some specific information, they have to choose the answer from the multiple choices. And then grids and charts. Grids and charts, here I have the example. This one. Learners listen to a text about 4 students: Alice, Jonas, Gerhard, and Michael. And then they have to fill out the details about students as they hear them. So they will fill in the table, fill in the blanks here for the information about Alice, about Jonas, and about Gerhard and Michael from the audio that they hear, from the one they hear. And then next we have matching tasks. It's listening to a description of a picture and then just the picture described. So after listening to the description of a picture, they have to choose which picture is being described. And then spot the mistakes. You can tell the story and then give them pictures and then ask them to spot the mistakes in the pictures. It can be the sequence of the event, or it can be the story, maybe the name or the what happened to the characters. The point is spotting the mistakes. And then last but not least is a longer response requirement. It is respond to a series of comprehension questions. So there will be several questions like coming from one listening or maybe dictation. So teacher will dictate, could be a story, could be anything, and then students will write what is dictated. Of course, it depends on the proficiency level of students. If the younger the students, if they can write, then maybe teachers can pause it more frequently than the older children. And maybe the teacher also can repeat that one more than one time, more than 2 times maybe. And that's all the text types for listening only. And last but not least, I have these 2 questions for you. First, from all the techniques mentioned, which one do you think will be the least effective technique to assess listening? And give the reason. Second, during online teaching learning, do you find difficulty in assessing listening? Please elaborate your answer. Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.